started.
All right, great. Nice. Let me just go back to my screen here. Perfect. So welcome everyone to today's session. And if you haven't joined my Menti yet, please go ahead and do that now. So you can either take out your phone camera and scan the QR code here on my screen, or go to menti.com and then enter the code 39092298. Great. And then if you haven't answered the icebreaker question yet, please go ahead and do that now. I'm asking you for what's your dream vacation destination? We have Iceland, Japan, Barcelona as the most popular options, and a couple of other ones as well. Cool. Great. So today's session will be focused on getting started with Mentimeter. And my name is Emilia, and I am your dedicated customer success manager here at Mentimeter. So that means that my task is to make sure that you get the full value out of Mentimeter. And in today's session, we will be using Mentimeter. So here we have the reactions available for you. So on your devices, you will be able to give me either a heart or a thumbs up. We also have the meeting comments enabled. So if you press the send a comment button, those comments will appear here on my screen for a couple of seconds and then disappear. So those are good for any type of quick reactions that you want to send me. Then on top of that, we also have the Q&A open. On your devices, perfect. This is what the comments would look like. So that will appear on my screen and then disappear. But then if you use the open Q&A button, those questions will appear here in my Q&A, and then I will be able to answer those questions. So at any point during today's session, if you want to ask a question, just go ahead and use the open Q&A button. But it seems that you're definitely getting the hang of it. For anyone that hasn't joined the Menti yet, I have the QR code here still for a little while, but otherwise the Menti code at the top of my screen will stay here throughout the session. So if you haven't joined yet and you no longer see the QR code, you can just use the code at the top. Great. But first, I wanted to ask you, how often have you used Mentimeter so far? This is so I know what your current level with Mentimeter is and what kind of things we should be focusing on here today. Just gonna add the QR code since we have a couple of people that are just joining now as well. So feel free to join the presentation once you're in. All right, it looks like we have quite a bit of variety here. So we have 2 people that have used Menti a few times and feel overall confident, 3 people that have used it once or twice, but very briefly, 1 person that has only voted, never actually presented, and then 6 people that are using Mentimeter for the first time ever. Extra welcome to you. Really lovely to see you here, curious to learn more about Mentimeter. Great. Okay, but in today's session, we will definitely focus on the basics of getting started. So after this session, you will definitely feel comfortable with creating your first mentees. But even if you are a bit more advanced user, like a couple of you are, I'm sure that you will leave with some new tips and tricks after today's session as well. Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing this. Let's move to the next question, which is, what are your expectations for today's session? I thought that I would just add this here so that you can share anything that you want to get out of today's session, so that I can also tailor this more towards your needs. So if it is just the basics of getting started, you can write that here, or maybe it is just tips and tricks, you can write that as well. But if there's something specific, feel free to write that. I'm going to add the QR code again since I saw that some people are still joining this call. So for anyone joining just now, please go ahead and scan the QR code to join my Menti. Otherwise, the code is also available here at the top of my screen. Great. We have the first response, how to use Mentimeter efficiently. Know how to use Mentimeter more effectively and how to blend it better into teaching process. Yeah, great. Learn how to make questions for students and responses soon. Yeah. Getting to know the basics so I'm able to use it as an interactive tool with my students. Learn a different software to interact with students during class. Great. Know the functions and how to use. Learn how to use Mentimeter. Learn more varieties of interactive and creative technology. That's great. I think so far we are very aligned with what we are expecting from today's session. So that's definitely great. To know how Mentimeter can be used in the class. Record of answers. All right. Learn how to use Mentimeter properly and efficiently. Great. We create our ideas. Yeah. Learn how to make questions for students and get responses soon. Absolutely. That's definitely something that I will be covering. So this sounds great. I think, yeah, we're very aligned with what I've prepared versus what you want to get out of today's session. So that's great. How can it be used for design-related courses, architecture, graphics design, etc., effectively in real life? Great. More than vote and Q&A. Great. To know how to use it to interact with students in class. Learn to apply Mentimeter to teaching. That's brilliant. Thank you all for sharing these ideas. Just gonna quickly look at this as well. We have the option to summarize responses as well if you use this, for example, with a large audience. So today, the expectations we have: learn Mentimeter basics, use Mentimeter efficiently, integrate into teaching, explore interactive tools, design course applications. Great. I will definitely do my best to cover most of this in today's session. Here is the agenda that I have prepared for you. So I'm going to first briefly talk about the power of Mentimeter and what the tool can help you with. Then the majority of the session, we will be focusing on use case examples. So question ideas that you can start using in your own classes if you want to. Then we will also do a walkthrough of Menti, so how to actually create all of these slides and how to use the platform. And then we will end the session with a Q&A. But as I mentioned earlier, you can submit questions at any point during today's session. So if you have a question, you're wondering about something, just feel free to click on Open Q&A, and then you will be able to ask that question. I see that we have a couple of people in the lobby, so if someone can help me admit people, that would be great, since I'm sharing my screen, so it's a little bit trickier for me to do that now. Thank you. Great. So first, a little bit about the power of participation. And of course, when we are teaching something, the goal that we have is that people actually learn and improve. And the easiest way to do that is to go through this cycle here on the right side of my slide. And that really starts with active participation. And this is the reason why we want people to actively interact in classes and lectures. Because once you get that active participation, people are then able to actually share their ideas, thoughts, and knowledge. And that way you can easily create shared understanding in the group, which also leads to deeper thinking and then better memory retention of the topics that you're talking about. And that then, of course, helps you achieve the outcomes that you want to achieve for those classes. And then looking at Mentimeter specifically, We really want to help you easily gather input from everyone in the class or in a meeting as well. So you can also use Mentimeter for any internal meetings that you might have. And with Mentimeter, you can then visualize everyone's input clearly and in real time. So you don't need to just ask one student at a time, but rather you can collect everyone's input at once and then show it in a really easy to understand format. And then you can, of course, also save all the insights and share those later. So especially in teaching context, you will be able to compare learning over time, see if your students are improving in the topics that you're discussing, and then also show the students what they have learned. So for example, if at the beginning of the course you ask a question that helps the students show what they already know, and then show that data at the end of the course, it can be really motivating for students to see that I've actually learned a lot because I didn't know all of this at the beginning. So that's a really great way for you to also help students stay motivated, because sometimes you kind of forget how much you've actually learned. And we really want to also help you improve engagement and learning outcomes, as well as increase student satisfaction. So we really want to make sure that your students are having fun in the lectures and then also learning through that. And more specifically, we really want to help you with effortlessly facilitating active learning. I think we've all been in sessions where you're not really sure if people are actively participating and listening, or if they are just kind of there physically, or if it's a virtual lecture, then just logged in, but you don't know if they're actually paying attention. But with Mentimeter, it's really easy for you to see when you get the responses in. We also want to help you leverage student insights in teaching. So with Mentimeter, you can really easily see what the students already know, what are the areas that you should focus most on, and what really helps that specific group of people learn. We also want to improve engagement in both large and small groups. So Mentimeter can be used in large lectures of hundreds or even thousands of people, but also in small groups, such as seminary groups or whatever it might be in your case. And we really want to make sure that we offer an equal opportunity for everyone to participate. So with Mentimeter, it doesn't matter if you're the person that always dares to speak up, ask a question, or if you're a little bit more shy and maybe don't feel so comfortable speaking up in front of everyone. Everyone's input is submitted the same way in Mentimeter, and everyone is given a voice. Great. But that was really the theory part of today's session. So now let's have a look at some examples. And the first tip here would really be to engage your participants from the start. And what that can look like is, for example, this one here. So this is an icebreaker example. I've also added plenty of other examples afterwards. I will share these slides with you after today's session, and then you will be able to have a look at them and also use the other icebreaker examples that I've added in the background. But my question to you is, how are you feeling today? And here I have used our pin on image question type, which allows you to add a picture on the slide, and then your participants can add a dot wherever they want on that picture. So we have some responses coming in, quite some variety here. So we have one person over, or two people over here, two people over here, one person here, two here, three. Two people here as well. I guess it's a Friday, so a lot of us are already in a happy mood, it seems. Yeah, two people over here, one here in the middle. I think this face is so cute. And so far, no grumpy dogs and no one yawning as well. So that's fun to see. But the idea with asking a question like this is to just make it easier for your participants to start engaging with your presentation. So when the first question is something really fun and simple like this, your participants are much more likely to start engaging and then also stay engaged later during the session. But at the same time, this can also give you some really good insights because then now I, for example, see that we're all in a pretty good mood today. But then if I had seen, for example, that everyone is answering this one, then maybe I have a bit of a trickier audience to work with, and I really need to focus on making sure that everyone stays engaged. Great. And then looking at the learning part in Mentimeter, so how to really improve learning outcomes in Mentimeter. First of all, I've linked a story from University of Oslo because they also use Mentimeter in teaching languages. And I think this article here, you will get these slides afterwards as well, so you don't need to save the link, but I've linked it here. And there we have plenty of examples around how to actually use Mentimeter in the language learning context. And some ideas from that case are also using the flipped classroom method. So the best way to really make sure that you get the full value out of the classes would be to allow the students to learn the basic content at home and then actually apply new vocabulary in class. We're going to have a look at a couple of examples just in a moment around what that could look like. Then also sharing examples anonymously and then discussing as a group can be a really great way to make sure that people don't feel scared to submit their input because it's all going to be anonymous. And then we can together as a group look at what are maybe some mistakes that we can correct or why something is wrong, what would be a better way to say something and things like that. So a really simple way to take the shame out of making mistakes. And then the third tip would be to do homework through Menti, and that way you can then address all the most important things next class. So really simple way to see what are the mistakes that people are commonly making and how to address those in the next class. I see that we have our first question, so I'm gonna quickly check what that is. I want to collect information and their ID from students through their answers to evaluate their personal engagement and learning outcomes. What should I do as an instructor when using Mentimeter? Yeah, we actually do have a question type that you can use for this specifically, and it's called the quick form slide. I can maybe quickly show you later during today's session. But yeah, the quick form slide allows you to collect people's student IDs, and then you can track the responses throughout. So by default, Mentimeter is anonymous, but if you want to go around it, that is also possible. Great. All right. So here is an example of what this could look like in practice. So here I've again used our open-ended question type. And the question is, how would you use the verb approach in a sentence? So this way, your students can anonymously submit their input and practice. So for example, now if we had this verb as something that was in the vocabulary for the lecture, then we can together practice actually applying that knowledge and trying it out. Now, you don't, of course, have to do this if you don't want to, but if we have some people that want to use the verb, you can do that here. But this is the same open-ended question type that we used before. So a really simple way for you to gather everyone's input in an efficient way, and then you can together discuss this in the group and talk about, for example, here we have this first response here. So you can use Western blot to approach the expression of proteins. Great. And then we can see, I would like to approach this new software gingerly. Great. And then if you want to have in-class discussions around these, you can always highlight them. So this one, for example, if I now wanted to discuss why this one was correct, for example, and why it is a good sentence here, I could highlight it for that. Great. Here is a third example. It is an important step to define the approach systematically before starting the thesis research. Great. Nice. Okay, I'm gonna give you a little bit more time if someone is still typing their answer. I love this one. It usually means to get near. So we hear a lot of it when a judge in a courtroom says, "Approach the bench." That's a great one. Even a couple of sentences there. Brilliant. And here is another way that you can also do these kind of knowledge checks. So I've added a multiple choice question, and my question to you is, which of these sentences is grammatically correct? And then we have 3 different options. So academic vocabulary is difficult to define because it depends on what context. And academic vocabulary is used on academic context, and academic vocabulary consists of general and technical words. And one thing that I've done here as well is that I've actually hidden the responses. And that's something that you can do if you don't want the students to be influenced by other students' answers. So this way, everyone will be able to submit their answer before actually seeing how other people are voting. So you can see that the results here on my slide are empty, but here at the bottom of my screen, I can still see how many people have submitted their responses. So now we have, for example, 8 people. So this here will allow me to know when it is a good time for me to show the responses. Great. Okay. I think we're ready to see how you voted. Okay. We have 4 people. Oh, now 50-50. So 5 people saying this one and 5 people saying this one. And then for the multiple choice questions, if you want to, you can also have a correct answer. And that's what I have set up for this question here. So now if I press enter, it will actually show us that this indeed is the correct answer. So here it was just a really tiny mistake that might be easy to miss. So this should have been in instead of on. So 8 of you did get it correct now. So that's the one. And yeah, this would then be just a really simple way for you to test the knowledge of the students and then also talk about it in class. So then people are less likely to make the same mistake going forward. Brilliant. And then here, this is also an open-ended question. And the example I wanted to show you is really using it for reflection. So my question to you is, or it's not really a question, but share something that you've learned recently. And this can be anything. It can either be something that you've learned in this session so far, but also if you want to share something else, maybe you've learned a new skill, something, whatever it might be. I would love to hear that. DeepSeek, great. Yeah, a lot of things happening in AI right now. It's a big topic. Mentimeter, that's great. Yeah, that's definitely the purpose for today's session, to learn about Mentimeter. So great to hear that you learned something already. How to use AirDrop to transfer photos. That's definitely a convenient one to use. Can make your life a lot easier if you need to share a lot of photos. Great. But yeah, basically the idea with asking a question like this is to make your students reflect on what they have learned. So that can also then improve knowledge retention when you kind of go back to what it is that I have learned, and then also can help others kind of get reminded of something. So you could, of course, ask this specifically tied to the course outcomes or the lecture that you're running. And that way, people are kind of both thinking a little bit more deeply about the topic, but then also sharing their learnings with others. Oh, that's a fun one. I've never actually been to Taiwan. I would love to come over there. So that's a good information for me if I ever come. Students are using AI as a fortune teller. That is interesting. I didn't know that either. Learn how to design a data management assignment related to Google Notebook LM. Nice. Notebook LM here as well. Great. Thank you for sharing these. Very exciting. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer if someone is still typing their answer before I move to the next example. Ooh, making a cake. That's lovely. I wonder what kind of a cake it was, though. Sounds very delicious. Great. I think we're ready to move to the next. Oh, there was one more. How to change AirTag's battery. I don't know that either, so that's something that I can learn as well. Great. But then the next kind of use case or purpose for using Mentimeter would be to understand your students' needs. And here are a couple of examples on what that could look like. So here I have added a ranking question type, and the question is, which teaching methods help you the most? And then I've added three different options here. So group discussions, individual assignments, and lectures. And in the ranking question type, you can then choose how you would want to rank these, or what is the order of priority for these different options. All right. It looks like right now we have group discussions as the number one, and then very even between individual assignments and lectures. They keep kind of moving back and forth. One is second place and one is third. Great. But yeah, a question like this is just a really simple way for you to understand what helps each of your specific groups of students learn. So now, for example, if I had a look at this, I can see that group discussions is really what helps this group learn. So then maybe that's what we should focus most on. Whereas with another group that I'm teaching the same course to, it might be that people really love individual assignments, and then that's something that I could focus a little bit more on with that group. This is also something that you can use to make any decision where you have different options. So you can collectively decide by choosing what is the best ranking option or order in your opinion. And also, for example, in my team, we often use this to prioritize between different tasks that we could be working on. So we add all of the different priorities here, and then everyone in the team can vote so we can see together what we think is the best approach. Great. And then here we have a way to collect feedback in a very simple way. So this is our scales question type. And I would love for you to submit your feedback on this session so far. I've added 3 different statements here. So I have learned something new. The examples have felt relevant, and this session has made me excited to start using Mentimeter. Great. And then here, the default scale that we have is from strongly disagree to strongly agree. But it's also something that you can adjust if you want to. So if you want to have, for example, a scale from easy to difficult or whatever else it might be, you can also do that. And you can also choose how many statements you want to have. Great. Okay, so far it looks overall very, very high. So thank you for that. Very happy to hear that. And you can see that for each of these statements, we can see the average score. And then if I hover over this, I can also see how the individual answers are spread out. So here, for example, we have almost the same average for the last 2 statements. But then here we can see that everyone has actually voted this 3 or above, whereas for this one in the middle, we have quite a few people here all the way at 5, but then we also have 1 person here and 2 people here. So this is something that can give you a little bit more insights as well. And really, the reason why we would want to ask a question like this during the session is that you're much more likely to get enough feedback to get a representative results of the group. Because often if we just send out a survey afterwards, people might not be as inclined to take it because, yeah, a lot of survey fatigue. We don't always have the time to do that. But when you ask it on the spot, it's much easier for people to share. And then this is also something that you can track over time. So if, for example, now, let's say that we have the lowest score for the I have learned something new. So then maybe next time I want to include some even more advanced features, some new ideas, and then I can see if that score improves afterwards. In the next session, which will be in 2 weeks, focused on more advanced features, we are also going to have a look at how you can actually track analytics here, because we do also have a built-in feature to track changes over time. Great. And yeah, we actually have a bit of a surprise quiz coming up, but I'm just going to check the 1 question that we have here as well. Kahoot was used before, and I found it's not as effective as I thought when it's applied in small classes under 8 students. So for Mentimeter, is there a range of students in class that it's more suitable for? No, I would say that it's really suitable for both large and small audiences. So as a general rule of thumb, I wouldn't necessarily use Menti for groups less than maybe 5 or 4 people, because yeah, then it's just not as powerful. But anything above 5, I think it's a very, very useful solution. So for example, here at Mentimeter, my team is currently 4 people, and we often use Mentimeter in our team meetings. So that just allows everyone to submit their input in a very efficient way, and then for you to gather that data as well. So for example, our manager can then save all the decisions that we made, all the input that people have added, and so on. And we also use it for example, stress check-ins and things like that you can then track over time. Great. Okay, but now we are ready for our little surprise quiz. So with Mentimeter quizzes, you all automatically get an avatar, so the picture, and then there is also a randomly generated nickname. The name you can change if you want to, but you can also just keep the one that you were randomly given. Okay, we have 22 players ready. Just giving you a couple of more seconds to join if someone is still joining right now. All right, I think we're ready to get started now. So I'm going to start the countdown. You get more points for faster answers, so be quick. Which preposition do you use with the adjective interested? Is it about, on, or in? Brilliant. You are all professionals here, so in is indeed correct. And with these quizzes as well, if you do want to, you can also add all the music and things like that if you're used to Kahoot. I didn't do that this time since I'm not a big fan, but just wanted to share that that's something that you can do if you want to. So just a really great way for you to test knowledge. Let's see who was quickest. It looks like Ian is the quickest one so far, but we do have one more question. So let's see if you can maintain that lead. Let's see, everyone ready? Yes, let's go. Here we are. And this one, you actually need to type the answer. So can you come up with the synonym for the word analyze? And yeah, here I really wanted to show that we have the options for both choosing between answers that you provide, but also making the students produce their own answers. And I would say this can be an even more powerful way to really see if people are learning. I can, by the way, also choose. So here we have one correct answer would be examine. And quite a few of you actually said that one. And yeah, with this question, I can also choose how much time you have to submit your answers. Maybe that was a little bit quick. I know that some of you didn't have enough time, but yeah, it's up for you as the presenter to choose how much time you want to allow. But I've added a couple of correct answers here. So we have two people that said examine, then we have evaluate as well. We have review, assess, investigate. And yeah, I would definitely say I can also then mark answers as correct as we go along. So here, for example, if I want to say investigate, that's also correct. I just click on that one. So if someone has, for example, a typo or something, I can still give that a point as well. I'm gonna be really generous here, so I'm gonna give both of these correct as well. So great. So that's a way that you can also make your students actually produce the answers themselves rather than just choosing between the predefined options. And let's see who our winner is for today. And it looks like it would be Frosty. Congratulations. Well done on winning today's quiz. But yeah, the quiz is just a really easy way for you to gamify learning, make it a little bit more fun. And of course, you can also use this for any type of quizzes. It doesn't need to always be around, the topic that you're actually teaching, but you can just use it as a fun energizer as well. Great. So now it is actually a time for a little walkthrough of Mentimeter. So I'm going to go ahead and press Escape so we can see the edit view of Mentimeter. And here you can see that on the left side, I have all of the slides that I have in this presentation. Then here in the middle is the slide that I'm currently working on. And then here on the right side is where I can make a lot of changes here. But when I am then creating a new Menti, the first thing I would probably do is click on New Slide, and then I can choose the slide type that I want to use. So here at the top, we have all of the interactive questions. You can always hover over the different options to see a bit of a preview of what that would look like. So this can help you choose what would be the most appropriate question type for your question if you're not really familiar with them yet. But we have, for example, the multiple choice, word cloud, scales, open-ended, ranking, and pin on image that we've used today. And this is also for the person that asked about collecting student IDs. This slide here, quick form, is the one that you could use for that. So this one allows you to gather information in the back end without showing that on the slides. Then here in the middle, we have the quiz competition. So we had the select answer and type answer type of questions. We also have content slides available. So if you want to, you can create your full presentations in Mentimeter. So today's presentation as well, I've created using the text slide, bullet points. You can also add videos, numbers, whatever else you might want to add to your presentations. And then we also have a couple of integrations here with Google Slides, PowerPoint, Miro. If you, for example, already prepared a presentation in PowerPoint and you want to just add the Menti questions and the Q&A on top of that, we also have the option to import slides. So if I click on here, I can just choose the PowerPoint presentation or Keynote, whatever it might be that you use, and then import that and get the Mentimeter questions added in between whenever needed. But now I'm just going to go ahead and choose multiple choice so you can see what it would look like. So this now created an empty question for me, and then I can just type my question here. So it can be, for example, what is your favorite color? And then once I click on this area here with the options, it opens up the edit menu here on the right side. And this is where I could then type my options. So let's do, blue, pink, and red. I can also add more options if I want to. And then if I want to make this a little bit extra fun, I can also add pictures here. So if I click on this, I can either upload images or I can use the image library. So here I can just search for, say, blue, and then you can see all of these images that you can use. Or you can also add GIFs if you want to make it extra fun, like I did on a couple of questions here today. And there are also some, so basically this is how you can get started. If you want to, we do also have some options on choosing different visualizations. And then here is where you can also toggle off the setting, show responses live. So this is what I did for that one question where the responses were hidden. So you just toggle that off and then it says responses are hidden. Then here at the top, we also have this little settings button, and that's where you can choose if you want to have a presentation like we're doing today, or if you want to do a survey, which would allow people to go through the questions at their own pace. So if you want to use Mentimeter for homework, then you would just use the survey option and allow people to answer the questions before the next class. Then here at the top, we also have the share button. And if you then are doing a survey in Mentimeter, this participation link here or the QR code that you can download are the ones that you could use to allow people to take your survey. Then under editors is where you can add co-editors to your presentation. So if you want to create slides together with a colleague, just type their email address here and hit invite, and then you will both be able to edit. And then after the session, for example, after today's session, I will share this link with you, and that will allow me to, that will allow you to go through all of the slides, look at the results, and also copy any of the examples that you want to use to your own account. We also have the option to copy the embed code. So this is what you could use if you want to add the Menti presentation into your LMS. Great. And then here on the right side, we also have comments. So if you are co-editing a presentation with a colleague, you can just add a comment here, mention them, and that way work together. Then under interactivity, you have the options to choose which reactions you want to have for that presentation. So for example, for this one, we have the heart and the thumbs up. And then this is where you can also toggle on the Q&A. And if you want to moderate the questions, you can also toggle on moderation. And then here is also the live chat that I have for this presentation as well. Great. And then once you have presented in Menti, you will have this little bar here saying this presentation has results. And then you can either manage results, which is something that you can do if you want to reuse the presentation. So say if I, for example, now presented this to you, and then I want to present the same presentation to another audience, I can then reset the results, and then that would clear out the slides so that it's empty when I present it again, but also still save all the results in the back end if I need to go back to any of that. But now we can actually have a look at view results. So I'm just clicking on view results, and then we get first here on the left side, I can see all of the different questions that I have in this presentation. So I can scroll through those and see what the responses were. And then here on the right side is where I can, first of all, see the overall participation percentage for this presentation. So that can kind of be your engagement score for that presentation. Then we can also see how many questions you got in the Q&A, and then the average result for the quiz. Then here below that, you will also see the participation for each of the questions in your presentation. So this way you can really see where your students were most engaged and where they may be zoned out. So here I can see that, for example, I have 43% for this question, but then only 29% for this one. So maybe this part wasn't as engaging as the other ones. And then here we have over 50% again. And then scrolling down, you can also see the quiz leaderboard and then the Q&A. So especially if you don't have time to answer all questions, this is where you can go to the Q&A and get back to people after the class. And then finally, here at the bottom, you also have the option to download results. So you can either download it as an Excel spreadsheet to analyze further, or download it as a PDF file. You can also choose only specific slides if you want to use that, for example, for reporting or something like that. Great. And then let's go back to create here. And then this one question that I just created here, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. So here I'm going to click delete. You can also copy slides to other presentations if you want to reuse some of the content that you created. Great. And I'm going to hit present again. Here I have a couple of helpful links for you. First of all, we have our next webinar on March 7th. So this is a session where we will be focusing more on advanced use of Mentimeter. So that's the link to the registration if you want to sign up for that. Then we also have our help center, help.mentimeter.com, where you can search for any of our features and get a step-by-step guide. Our blog is also where you have a lot of inspiration from other universities. So that's where the University of Oslo story is as well. But we also have quite a few other examples from other universities if you're curious. We also have some templates for you to use. For support, you can either use the email or the chat bubble in Mentimeter. And then we also have a couple of articles here. If you're curious to learn more about the science behind Mentimeter, you can check these out. And then for self-paced learning, we have Mentimeter Academy, where we have courses around using Mentimeter, but also some other topics of interest, such as inclusive teaching methodologies and neuroscience-based learning. So really how you can get neuroscience on your side when it comes to improving learning outcomes. So I definitely recommend for you to check these out. Great. But we have now reached almost the end of today's session. We still have a few minutes for Q&A. I've also added the QR code here for your feedback survey. So please go ahead and scan that QR code to share the feedback on today's session through your internal channels. But any feedback that you have for me, this is also an open-ended question here. So you can just type your feedback here. So 2 ways to give feedback, for me here on the slide, and then internally for the Bilingual Center, you can give it through this QR code. I've also added the link to the next webinar on March 7th here as well. But we have one question here again. Let's see this. May I ask what activity type is the slide you use to ask how we are feeling? Thank you. Of course you may. And that would be the pin on image question type. So it's available under the interactive questions, and then it's the lowest one there. So pin on image. But yeah, as I mentioned, you will also get the slides that I've used today. So then you will be able to have a look at the slides that I have and copy anything that you want to use. So that will also show you what slide types I am using. Great. Any other questions or any feedback that you want to give me on today's session? I would love to hear any feedback that you have, so we can also incorporate that when it's time for our next session in 2 weeks. Okay, we have at least one heart and one thumbs up. So thank you for those. Any feedback that you want to type on the slide, you can also do that. Oh, and now we're getting a couple of comments. Amazing and woohoo. Great. All right. But if you don't have any questions, then we can, of course, finish this session a couple of minutes early as well and give you some time back. And I can't wait to see you during our next session next week. Great.
Thank you, Emilia, for today's workshop.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.